also his royal patronages have been returned to the Queen. Buckingham Palace has announced that Joe Pike is in Westminster for us. He covered much of the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. He's also been following developments with regard to Prince Andrew. So, Joe, what is the significance of this?
This signifies that this whole ongoing legal battle is not just damaging Prince Andrew's reputation, that is shot to pieces really at this stage, whether that is fair or not, but it's clearly also damaging the royal family, and that is why this further step to distance the Queen and the Prince of Wales and other members of the family from Prince Andrew has been made. The big unknown at this point is what Prince Andrew's plan is now. How does he approach this fight with Virginia Giuffre, who of course has accused him of sexually assaulting her 3 times in 3 different countries when she was 17 years old. He has continuously and strenuously denied the allegations. Now, Prince Andrew does have a number of options over how to progress with this legal case, but I think all of them, Jonathan, are potentially damaging to him and therefore damaging to his family too. And that's why this distancing is taking place, separating him even further from his family and the duties that so many of them hold. He could decide to comply, to defend himself. That, though, could clearly be particularly damaging, especially as we're expecting a deposition of Prince Andrew if he does go ahead. That would mean he would be questioned by Virginia Giuffre's top lawyer, David Boyce, out of court, but under sworn oath. That could last hours, 6, 7 hours. That could clearly be very damaging. We wouldn't see that live at the time, but the transcript or a video would be entered into court evidence, so we think, eventually see it. So he could decide to comply. Secondly, he could comply but take the Fifth. He could effectively no comment. Looking at the Fifth Amendment to the US Constitution, which allows people to not speak for fear of criminalising themselves. He could decide, the third option is to stop engaging with the legal process. That, though, would mean a default judgment would be likely, i.e. the judge would finish this case, decide on liability, and therefore decide on costs. Presumably in that circumstance, you'd expect him not complying would mean him being forced to give some money to Virginia Giuffre. And the fourth option is for him to settle, him to agree a deal with Virginia Giuffre, which would involve a financial settlement. But you've got to remember, her lawyer, David Boyce, has said she won't just be happy with that alone. She does want to have some sort of acceptance from Prince Andrew that he's done wrong and an apology from him. And of course, he has denied these allegations consistently. And at this stage, it seems pretty unlikely he wants to do that. We, of course, could see a jury trial. The judge in this civil case in America has set a date for that in September, although it's very likely there could be a delay to nearer Christmas or even to 2023. But from this stage forward, Jonathan, it gets more and more difficult for Prince Andrew. It is very, very difficult to see how any of the 4 options facing him make things easier. And I think all of them are going to damage him and damage the royal family further. That, I think, is why this extraordinary statement has been released by Buckingham Palace today, saying that he is going to continue not to take part in public duties and he's going to lose all his military titles. One of them is Honorary Colonel of the Grenadier Guards. Of course, there have been stories in recent weeks that some people in that regiment are particularly unhappy that he continues to have that title, partly because some of the officers in that regiment are asked at ceremonial events to toast the Duke of York. They are very unhappy about that. Ultimately, whether or not these allegations made by Virginia Giuffre are true, his judgment, the Duke of York's judgment, has been called into question because 2 close friends of his, we now know, were a paedophile in Jeffrey Epstein and a child sex trafficker in Ghislaine Maxwell. So whatever the truth of these allegations, fairly or unfairly, his association with those 2 people has clearly damaged him. And the worry after that decision yesterday by the judge in New York to continue with the case, to reject Prince Andrew's attempt to dismiss it, I think that in Buckingham Palace they've realised this is a big problem. And Jonathan, it's only likely to get bigger.
OK, Joe, many thanks. Joe Pike there with the breaking news this hour. The Buckingham Palace has released a statement saying that with the Queen's approval and agreement, the Duke of York's military affiliations and royal patronages have been returned to the Queen. The Duke of York will continue not to undertake any public duties and is defending this case as a private citizen.